This is Inspiring Careers with your host, Ingrid Centurion. We're going to talk about fascinating technologies that will impact your future. Meet inspiring entrepreneurs and people that are making huge differences in the community and around the world. We're going to share career and life lessons of inspiration and success. Our mission is to inspire our viewers to make a better life for themselves by sharing our stories, our interviews, and documentaries. Please stay tuned as we have incredible guests coming up. So you want to write a book, and today you're going to find out how. James Edward Bruce Sr., PhD, is a free-spirited Renaissance man. He's multi-talented, and he's a man that wears many hats and has many irons in the fire. He's a Boston native and is focused and determined to inform, educate, inspire, and motivate people throughout the world to explore their virtual mountains and to reach the peak of whatever level they aspire. As an entrepreneur for more than 30 years and now a business consultant and motivational expert and teacher, he travels throughout the United States and abroad to motivate and stimulate individuals, groups, and organizations toward developing a strategic plan for positive change. He particularly enjoys working with and challenging the minds of young people. He's also a professional singer, songwriter, and he's passionate about developing creative ways to combine his teaching, singing, and book writing. Welcome to Inspiring Careers.
I am so happy to be here. I'm really inspired by your great work. I really am.
Thank you, and I'm super excited to hear your story. You've written so many books, and what started this writing craze?
The writing craze started, I've met so many people in my travel in life, and a lot of people live these long, fruitful, and healthy lives, long lives, and they learn so much, they've experienced so much, and unfortunately they die and take so much information and knowledge with them. But for them remaining or sharing, people, I think, would have less problems or the world be in less chaos.
When did you start your first book?
I started many years ago. We're talking more than 20 years ago. I started writing my first book. And that was sort of a combination of, at that point, 8 years of operating and serving as a full-time florist. And I found myself consulting with brides and saying, you do things this way, and after a while. And I said, well, I find myself saying the same thing. So maybe if I put it into a book, they can use that as a reference tool and always refer back to it. And so I wrote a book. It's called, Oh, I Didn't Even Think About This. And these are different strategies and techniques for planning a wedding, reception, and honeymoon. So that was the start of the first book. And the rest is history. From that, I began writing poetry, inspiring people to likewise write poetry and share their story and express themselves.
Now, you're on book number 50. Today, I want you to share with us a little bit of how does someone start a book? Many of us want to write a book, or it takes us 5 years, many years to actually do it. There's workshops out there. What is the heart of it? Because we have your book here today with us, and I really want you to get us going on. So you want to write a book and find out how.
Ingrid, I thank you so much. I think the key to writing a book is having the mindset that it's not impossible. And the purpose of writing this book is, you see how small it is, it basically encapsulates the whole process of writing a book. And the mission, I find myself on a mission to allow people to share their stories. And really the point or the key is to demystify this whole notion that, oh, it's so difficult to write a book and it will take so long. And it's very simple. And a book, in my opinion, should be more of a conversation. You have a conversation. And it could be a one-way or a two-way where you're telling someone or you're engaging their response. And so the very first question is, why? Why do you want to write a book?
Well, I want to write a book because I'm a motivational speaker and I want to get my story out there so people know a little bit about me ahead of time.
Okay, so that sets the platform.
Stage,
this sets the stage. And so we know the motivation, so why you want. Some people want to write a book to become famous or get the stuff off their chest or set the record straight or even to share or inspire, motivate.
I was told, I sat on an airplane next to someone that had authored a book. I remember this a long time ago, and he says, "You're not going to get rich writing a book." And I always remember that. So it's not like you're making millions from writing a book. So you're right. You need to know why.
And then the second question is what?
Okay.
The key question is what? What do you want to write about? What do I have to say that will make people want to listen or read?
I want to write interesting stories, funny stories, and stories that teach lessons.
Okay. And then another question is how? How do you want to write this? Will this be you? Will it involve other information from other sources?
Right.
Or how do you want to write this?
Okay, so I'm good in math. I've never felt I was great at writing, but I would want someone to help me. I'd write the stories and then have them review my work or something like that.
And that's a good start. So if you can be passionate about something, but maybe you don't have all the keys or the tools to do it. But there are other people out there that will help you. Now the resources are so available.
Now, I did have someone come to me and say, I'd write your book, but he'd want a lot of money. And so I couldn't afford that fee, thousands and thousands of dollars to write your story.
Well, these days, writing a book and publishing a book is so much easier than it was at one time. There's this common, becoming more and more popular, print on demand, or you can self-publish books. And there are services out there that will take your information, and there are editing services and people who will assist you in writing and conveying your message as you would want it to be conveyed, and then they would do that. So you can get an opportunity to say what you want in print as you need it. So the print on demand is the publishing houses or the printing houses. They won't print the book unless it's sold.
And what's the fourth question?
The fourth question is, there's another question, where? Where do you want to write this book? And he said, where? It can be, because the place, the venue, can have a great impact on the outcome of the book. It might be at home, might be on the beach, it might be in the library, it might be in your places by yourself. Where? Do you want to write it amongst other people or late at night or something? And the very top question is when. That's sort of like the driving force behind this book going. Because you can know why you want to write the book, what it will be about, where you will do it, and the key question is when. Because if you don't have a when or start date, it won't happen.
I know a lady that wrote a book, and she travels all around the world on a very low budget. So she takes pictures, and that's what she did. She put her story together on how she was able to do that, and it was interesting. It was motivational to someone that may not be very wealthy, but they can still travel if they travel on a budget and economical, and it was great.
And then that's great because, again, I mentioned earlier, the whole key to writing a book is to tell a story, to share information, hopefully inspire, motivate, and encourage people to kind of share their story. So someone can learn from the lady's experience of traveling, of figuring things out.
You have many books, but one of the books that interested me was 5 Generations of Family Quotations, which we have here with us. What inspired you to write this book?
This book was inspired by the fact that I was very fortunate to grow up be part of 5 generations. I grew up with my great-grandparents, my grandparents, my parents, and my generation, and also my nieces and nephews that followed. And as my great-grandparents passed on, my grandparents passed on, and fortunately my mother is still with us. She's 83 years old. And as children, we hear all these sayings that the older people will say, and as children we don't understand, because typically and hopefully older people speak with wisdom. And so as young people, for example, my great-grandfather used to say, he says, if you give a cow enough rope, he will break its own neck. And so his children said, what are you talking about, a cow? And in the book, what I did is I quoted my great-grandfather, but then I did a modern translation. That simply means is that if people are trying to take advantage of you, they're treating you poorly, don't worry about it, because eventually they will hurt themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
I've never heard that one before.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
And I thought it was very important. And through our words, we are our words.
Right.
And so through our words, we live on.
Right.
And through their words, they live on. So the 5 generations of family quotations.
I don't have any family quotations like that, but my grandmother would always go, ojo, ojo. And I'd be like, what, ojo? You know, like, watch out, you know, watch your things, and I always remember that one.
Yes,
Oh.
yes, exactly. And then my grandfather used to say, sometimes, because he worked 3 jobs sometimes, he was really tired. And so every moment, like a lot of people who work a lot, and they sit, as soon as they sit down, they're ready to sleep. So sometimes my grandfather would be just in his moment, it was just like close his eyes. So sometimes we would think he was asleep. So we would stop talking so loud because you're going to wake him up. He'll open his eyes. And he would say, every shut-eye ain't sleep. And so it says, children, we think literally, because he's closed his eyes, we think he's asleep. But if you take it on a natural and a real, the deeper message that sometimes people think you don't know. They think you don't, because you don't say something or you don't react, they think you don't know. So that's a very profound message, I think.
Very profound.
Yes.
Now, you did a series, Massachusetts Stone Faces. What sparked that?
Yeah, Massachusetts Stone Faces, and I also did one called New Hampshire Stone Faces. Back in 2013, I met a really nice Chinese teacher. She was visiting Boston. She was a visiting scholar from China. And in China, she studied meditation, mindfulness, Tai Chi, a lot of those bigger sciences, and her creativity was one of them. So she, through conversation and communication, she shared some of those techniques with me. And so I embraced that ability to now see things differently. And so the journey was, the project was to go to mountains and forests and look at big stones. And in that, using my creativity, I could actually see images, may be of birds or effigies of people or dogs or everything, and that was it. So that was very helpful, and I wanted to capture it in an art form and put it into a book. And so use it as a metaphor to how we carry our lives. So when we meet situations face on, sometimes things are not as they appear. We meet people, sometimes they are not as they appear.
Right.
It's, oh, she's so nice, but maybe inside she's not so nice. Or maybe he doesn't look so handsome, but maybe he may be an absolutely beautiful person inside. So the mission or the goal is to be able to present things, use our imagination, creativity, be resourceful, and do things and make things happen.
Oh, that's
see
incredible.
Yeah.
Now, you wrote a children's book. What's your favorite children's book?
My favorite children's book, I wrote altogether 14 children's books.
Wow.
My favorite one is called The Talking Birds. And The Talking Birds is a book that features actual birds, and they tell little stories.
Oh.
And the book is written for children from ages 4 to 9. And as a teacher, as I am, I like to introduce new vocabulary and to expand and allow them to expand on the vocabulary. So in the stories, there's like really interesting words, and we in the writing, I show how to creatively use those words.
Yeah, I could see how all the lessons you've learned throughout your life, you're putting them into the stories, and they're really great lessons of wisdom and probably encouragement and education. Now, lastly, before we end, I want to talk a little bit about China. And I know you spent a lot of years there. And what did you learn most about China after being there so many years?
Yeah, I was in China for 3.5 years. And what I learned most about China is more about me. And I always put that when I would meet people, and certainly to my students, I would tell them, I'm here to learn. Yes, I'm your teacher, and I know that, but I'm also a student, and I'm here to learn from you. And there are 40 of you in my classroom, and if I can leave here with just one piece of information times 40, I'd be so much more informed about so much. And so what I learned from that is China is a very different place, and I also reinforce the idea that to be different doesn't mean better or worse. And I say, for example, my right hand is different from my left hand. Doesn't make my right hand better than my left hand. So it balances and support and complements the other. So I learned a lot about China. It's a growing nation, growing really fast. Many things that are developing. I also saw parts of the society in its development that I personally feel that America could learn a lot from. One being is that in terms of process. In America, if we want to, let's say, for example, we want to redistrict an area or make a law, national law, we have to go through the House of Representatives, through the Congress, and there's different committees just to get approval. In China, if there's a national agenda to do something, they just get it done. Even if in retrospect, say, well, we could have done it differently, but they get it done. And so it doesn't take 20, 30 years, or if ever, to get it passed. So I think in terms of progress, because let's say, for example, if there's a plan to build a bridge that would connect two cities, they just go ahead and make the plan, fund it, and get it done. Here, if we want to build a bridge, we have to go through all these other committees and these studies and so forth. But I think if the goal is to build a bridge to connect these people, two cities or towns, then you can look at how quickly these people can connect as people. And more, there's commerce going to happen, taxes going to happen, and moving forward.
Yeah, there's good things in all different countries and
Absolutely.
stuff like that. Now, before we leave, you said you came up with a song for today. And because you're a singer, you're a songwriter, we're not going to get in that today, but give us this little, sing to us right now. I want to hear it.
Yes, I do have an exciting gift that I have. It's about songwriting. And it's like, at any moment, I have all these frequencies, these musical frequencies floating around. And so this morning, as I was preparing to come, I thought about this interview we talked about in the book that I'm going to feature. Says, so you want to write a book, find out how. So this song, jingle came. Okay. So you want to write a book? Sit back and find out how. So you want to write a book? Yeah. Now sit back and find out how. Very excited about singing and bringing people together.
All right. Music is so wonderful. It changes your mind, your feelings, and all that kind of stuff. So thank you so much for being on the show today.
It's a pleasure, and I'm so
we'll definitely have to have you back.
Excited,
Our next guest is Noval Alexander. He was born in Framingham, served in the Massachusetts Army National Guard for 6 years and the Army Reserves for 20 years, including 2 tours of active duty in Operation Noble Eagle and Operation Enduring Freedom. He retired in 2013, and since then he's devoted all his energies to education as a substitute teacher in Natick, Needham, and Wellesley. He loves politics, and he's been on the Framingham School Committee as a member. He was also appointed by Senator Speaker to the Massachusetts Citizens Commission. He's also a non-voting member of the Framingham School Building Committee, which oversees the construction of Fuller Middle School. Today, he's going to tell us why he's running for City Council in District 5. Thanks for being on the show with us today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
So, you're from Framingham, your career, you've been out there, you've come back and forth 2 or 3 times. Now you're here to stay. And what made you want to run for City Council?
Well, when I came back, Ingrid, it was, we were still a town, and I went to a town meeting, and even before that, just going around town, I knew things had changed in the 18 years that I was gone, but there was a lot of things that was still the same, and I didn't think that the community had moved forward in a lot of ways, and so when we became a city, I just decided that I should run to make a difference. I've been in, a public life in some kind of way, contributing, being in the military and all that. So that was my motivation to give back.
Thank you for your service, and it's obvious you're a leader. You served. You've gone to different operations and things like that. So, what makes you that perfect candidate? You have a degree in governance.
Yes, I do.
Excellent, excellent.
University
so you
of Texas.
studied it.
Yes.
You studied it.
Yes,
so this may not have been something like that was always what you planned to do, but you want to give back now to your city and make it better.
Right. And and at the time when I was in college, I didn't think in a million years that I would run for office. I was more a mere spectator and a love of the whole political arena. But I felt like, especially now, I can bring that talent and that knowledge to bear on my job as a school committee member, and as on the Fuller project, and hopefully as a city councilor. So I feel like I'm the best qualified candidate. So that's my
And
other one.
what's the purpose of the council that you have experience on? What do they do?
Well, it's pretty much it's the checks and balances. It's the legislative branch for the city of Framingham, and so we have a fiduciary responsibility to oversee and pass the budget and make sure that money is spent wisely. And there's checks and balances on the executive branch, which is the mayor. And we also have appointment authority. The mayor or the designate would appoint people to different various commissions and boards in the city, and so we have a role in that as well, and also of different subcommittees that are broken down into to oversee different operations of the city. So like education definitely is in my wheelhouse. If I become a city councilor, I definitely would like to bring my experience to bear on the education subcommittee.
As a teacher, you bring that experience. You also have children in the school system, so this is truly near and dear to your heart.
Well, my children, to be clarified, my children didn't go to Framingham schools.
Oh, okay.
My son is in Texas, and my daughter is now 23. But I am the product of Framingham Public Schools, so uniquely. Close to the ground as far as that's concerned. I have deep roots. I have a lot of friends that are still here in the area or, in other places. And so I feel like I have a very deep knowledge of the community. So.
And what does the Massachusetts Citizens Commission, where you were appointed by Senator Spilka, what's the purpose of that commission?
Well, again, it's I'm just really proud that I was appointed by Senator Spilka, and I mean, this is something of great importance, I think, for the country. We're supposed to be looking at overturning the Citizens United Supreme Court decision that was brought down in 2010, and that goes to campaign spending. And basically, the ruling stated that corporations are to be treated basically as individuals, that they can contribute unlimited amounts of money, and that's why you see the rise of PACs and these commercials with dubious names, such as Americans for Promise, and there's all these people behind it that you don't know, contributing great amounts of money to try to sway the public. So we feel that. That should be looked at, and hopefully a proposal to amend the Constitution, which would be the 28th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. So hopefully we'll be wrapping that up. We'll have a draft of that in December. So I'm really, really excited about the work that we're doing on there. And we're bringing all types of people from across the state, across the country to testify in front of the commission. So it's really good.
So tell me a little bit about your experience running. How has it been? You've been meeting all kinds of people, having wonderful conversations.
Yes.
And what are they telling you out there?
It's I'll tell you that it's one of the most fruitful parts of campaigning. I originally, when I started running for school committee, I thought that was going to be the most dreadful part because I'm not a big speaker and I don't like to tout myself a lot. But when I get out and start talking to people one-on-one, you start feeling really the pulse of the community, what people really care about, and their fears, their hopes, their dreams. They talk about their children and even their pets sometimes. And it's just really, really down-to-earth things that's really important to the community. The simple things like, the roads maintained, our public safety. Is the water going to be safe? Our schools are good, and just those types of really day-to-day things. And it's been a real pleasure just talking to different people throughout the district of all different types of political persuasions and backgrounds, and color and cultures and all that, and it's really a pleasure doing that. So
I'm going to ask the question again. What made you want to run for District 5 City Council?
Well, because I feel District 5 it encompasses so much of what in Framingham is. It's very diverse in of itself. It bifurcates both north and south. We have major arteries, companies. We have schools. We have Mass Bay, and Framingham State is on our border. So, and that's very unique. It's not many communities have all those type of things right inside a ward or a district. So I felt like my years of experience and my love for the community and just trying to make a difference for District 5 and for the wider Framingham, I felt like it was the time for me to make that difference and jump in, and hopefully the residents feel that I'm worthy of that. So.
Well, I know you're worthy of it, and I appreciate and thank you for coming on the show and sharing your story. You've already served your country nobly, loyally, duty, honor country. It's obvious you're that candidate. You're a wonderful representation of the community. It's a very cultural community. You have a background. You have a college degree in governance,
yes,
which is incredible. So this is
not
really
a lot of
kind of
people
like
do have
I
that.
know, not, and a lot of people get involved in governance with no background or study of it. So, I think that's really fascinating. How this wasn't something you planned on doing, but here it is. You're on that road.
I feel like it's a moment in time,
right,
and everything kind of comes together.
It's coming together, right. So thank you so much for being on the show today, and I wish you all the best of luck out there.
Thank you very much.
When do they have to get out and vote?
Most important part.
Yes.
Please get out and vote.
Yeah.
Even if you don't vote for me, just regardless, go out and vote on November 5th, Tuesday, November 5th. And I really hope that my message to the people is crystal clear, and that I am the person to best represent them. Mm-hmm. So this Tuesday, November 5th.
That's right. Okay. Tuesday, November 5th. Get out there and vote. Noval Alexander, a veteran, born in Framingham, a wonderful person, leader, teacher, educator. And he is running for your District 5 City Council. Get out and vote November 5th.